Nicki don't need to worry
A
about
lot of
Don.
this.
She need to be with damn Don Lemon, and Nicki Minaj need to be worried about Chris Hansen. She needs to be worried about.
Yesterday, US Weekly broke the news that Nicki Minaj's house is at risk of being seized due to a lawsuit.
Under Trump's rules, she should be deported because I don't think, reportedly, that she is a legal citizen here. She is undocumented.
Nicki Minaj really wakes up every day and chooses embarrassment because it somehow keeps getting worse. After that humiliation ritual at AmFest with Erika Kirk, she thought she was about to drag Don Lemon, and once again, she played herself. Because the real talk that leaked right after is that this isn't about Don Lemon at all. It's about the money. Allegedly, Nicki is spiraling and lashing out at everyone because the checks aren't checking anymore. And a big reason for that is her decision to marry and stand 10 toes down behind a registered offender. Matter of fact, Nicki almost lost her house over a lawsuit involving her husband, Kenneth Petty. She barely scraped by and had to pay $500,000 to save the house. But instead of taking that as a warning sign, Nicki stayed online doing the most, which is why DL Hugley had to come in and remind Nicki she has bigger things to worry about than Don Lemon, like the fact that her husband, who can't legally be near a school or a playground, is blowing all the money she worked for. Now Nicki's fans were out here calling that settlement a win because Nicki didn't lose the house. But y'all, imagine being forced to pay $500,000 because your husband can't handle his own legalness. Kenneth does the crime, Nicki pays the dime. That's so embarrassing. And the fact that she's now teaming up with Erika Kirk and dipping into MAGA pockets to help cover her husband's debt is nasty work. It's giving desperate. To watch someone like Nicki fumble her legacy like this is honestly sad. However, DL Hugley is saying Nicki doesn't deserve any sympathy because she made her choices, and she chose to align herself with people who protect offenders. Alright, let me first catch you up to speed on this house situation. So back in 2024, Nicki got hit with a default judgment for around $500,000 tied to a lawsuit involving her husband, Kenneth Petty. And this all came from a 2019 incident that took place in Germany while Nicki was on tour. Nicki got into it with a female security guard, and then Kenneth ended up hitting a male security guard who stepped in to separate them. So according to the lawsuit, the male security guard, Thomas Weidenmuller, tried to break it up, but things escalated when Nicki ordered Kenneth to handle him. And according to Thomas, Kenneth came from the side and sucker punched him, breaking his jaw. Now here's where it gets wild. The lawsuit named both Nicki and Kenneth. However, they didn't bother to respond, and they left Germany after police issued an arrest warrant for Kenneth. And because they didn't show up or respond, the court ended up ruling against them automatically. But once that judgment was entered, Nicki and Kenneth still ignored it, and the money didn't get paid. So the security guard went back to court and asked the judge to enforce the payment, specifically asking for Nicki's Hidden Hills mansion to be sold to cover the debt. And the judge was actually considering it because there was enough equity in that house to satisfy the judgment. However, just one day before the forced sale process could officially move forward, Nicki suddenly found the money and paid the full $500,000, which stopped the house from being sold. So no, this wasn't exactly a win for Nicki. I mean, yeah, she didn't get her house auctioned off, but the fact she had to scramble at the last possible second is so embarrassing. Because imagine being forced to pay $500,000, not for something you did, but because your husband, who is already a registered offender, couldn't keep his hands to himself. Like, that alone should have been a reality check for Nicki. But clearly it wasn't, because instead of sitting down and dealing with her husband, Nicki decided to redirect all that frustration to journalist Don Lemon. Here's what happened. It all started when Don Lemon posted coverage of that wild protest in Minnesota where a group protesting against ICE disrupted a church service. But here's the main point. These protesters didn't come to this church just to be disruptive. It turns out one of the church's pastors, David Easterwood, is the acting director of ICE's St. Paul field office. So anyway, Don Lemon was there doing his job as a journalist, live streaming and talking about the whole situation in Minnesota.
So you can see the protesters here have gathered over here. They're in the middle of the church. So in the beginning of the church service, the pastor was speaking, and Nikema stood up and said her piece, and then the protesters surrounded her. But this is a clandestine mission. I think they found out according to them, this is according to Operation Pull-Up, that one of the pastors here is a member of ICE. And so Here we go.
But here come Nicki inserting herself in this situation before even checking what actually happened. Nicki flipped out, took it personally, and started dragging Don Lemon online and calling him slurs. She shared a photo of a Chucky doll and wrote in the caption, "Don C. sucking lemon is disgusting. How dare you? I want that thug in jail. He would never do that to any other religion. Lock him up." So clearly, Nicki didn't even get what was happening. She just saw it was inside a church and got on her high horse like she's some defender of Christianity. And let's be real, no one is buying this rebrand because, like most MAGA Christians, Nicki doesn't practice what she preaches. Anyway, Don Lemon had to check her real quick, and he responded in a statement to TMZ saying, "I'm not surprised Nicki Minaj does not understand journalism and is weighing in on matters that are above her capacity. However, the more appropriate image for her post is a pick-me doll." As for Nicki saying Don should be locked up, he responded to this in a video, saying Nicki needs to worry about her own legal status because she is, in fact, an undocumented immigrant.
Look, this is what I'll say to Nicki Minaj. I normally don't respond to things like this, but F it, I'm gonna do it this time. I think Nicki Minaj has made it very clear how she feels about African Americans in this country. I don't think she's one of them, obviously. And she should, under Trump's rules, she should be deported because I don't think, reportedly, that she is a legal citizen here. She is undocumented. And so she has shown her disdain for African Americans. So why are you supporting her? Why are you buying her records? She's also supporting, I have lots of gay friends who love Nicki Minaj. Why are you supporting this homophobic, bigoted, ignorant?
Now, regardless of how you feel about Don Lemon, Nicki's hypocrisy is just embarrassing. For those who don't know, Nicki was born in Trinidad and Tobago, and she actually acknowledged her undocumented status, including a 2018 post when she criticized the Trump administration's family separation policy. Nicki wrote, "I came to this country as an illegal immigrant at 5 years old. I can't imagine the horror of being in a strange place and having my parents stripped away from me at the age of 5. This is so scary to me. Please stop. Can you try to imagine the terror and panic these kids feel right now?" But fast forward to now, and this same Nicki Minaj is grifting for MAGA and calling Trump handsome and dashing. So now everyone is asking the obvious questions. How broke is Nicki that she had to sell out to MAGA and say these things? Or did she just genuinely lose her marbles? On the other hand, you've got folks like DL Hugley saying this shouldn't be surprising to anyone because Nicki fits right into the MAGA crowd. After all, she's got multiple offenders in her immediate family, and she stands 10 toes down behind them, not Chris Hansen. But DL has a point, because it's not just Nicki's husband. People forget that long before Kenneth came into the picture, Nicki defended her predator brother Jelani, who was sentenced to 25 years to life in prison for a despicable crime against his 11-year-old stepdaughter.
Nicki Minaj's brother and his attorneys thought he would be walking out of court a free man today. Jelani Mirage was convicted last November of repeatedly raping an 11-year-old girl.
Jelani was found guilty based on actual DNA evidence found on the victim, and yet Nicki supported her brother and even wrote a letter to the judge asking for a lighter sentence, saying Jelani is the most patient, gentle, genuine, giving, selfless man she knows. So maybe this is who Nicki always was, and she's just finally showing her real face. But I want to hear from y'all. Do you agree with DL Hugley that Nicki has way bigger fish to fry than worrying about what Don Lemon is doing? And what do you make of her going full MAGA? Is this just desperation because her husband is blowing through her money and she's struggling to drop hits? Or is this really who she is as a person? Drop your comments below, let me know what you think, and I'll catch y'all in the next video.